you're president,
yes,
and the banks are failing, do we let them fail this time?
Yes.
We let them fail this time.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. First of all, under Dodd-Frank, that is what will happen because we now have stress tests, and I'm going to impose a risk fee on the big bank if they engage in risky behavior. But they have to know, their shareholders have to know that, yes, they will fail.
That is merely a preview of things to come. Let's start here. The Fort Lauderdale Sun-Sentinel at one time heartily supported Marco Rubio for the Florida Senate, and few doubt their endorsement helped him get the gig. But now the same influential newspaper has come out text blazing at the presidential candidate, calling for him to get out if he hates the job as much as he recently proclaimed. Has Rubio made a fatal mistake Democrats will capitalize on? Or is the media cherry-picking about Senate performance in comparison to another senator who failed to show for votes and became president of the United States? Grist for the political animal to feed upon. Lurking from the left, Democratic political consultant Jessica Tarlov. Ruminating from the right, the National Review Institute Buckley Fellow in Political Journalism, Ian Tuttle. I thank you both for being here. Ian, I'm going to go ahead and begin with you. If we look at this whole issue about Marco Rubio and the Sun-Sentinel calling for him to resign, an article from 2007, and I quote, Senator Barack Obama has missed the most votes of any Democratic presidential hopeful in the Senate over the last 2 months, missing nearly 80% of all votes since September. Is this just media cherry-picking on Rubio?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not going to go anywhere with GOP primary voters. They don't care. And if it comes to the general election, there's an easy response for Republicans. So I think this is just something that they're having fun with for a couple days, but in the long run, it doesn't matter.
So, Jessica, wouldn't you agree then that if you look back at what the president did, the current president did at this time, this is really a specious argument that has no footing whatsoever?
Well, there are two ways to look at it. Does it have any footing insofar as is it going to hurt Marco Rubio? No, I would agree with Ian that it's not going to. But does it more generally point to an issue that we have in this country about people not showing up for their jobs when we pay them $174,000 a year to govern? Yes, that's a bigger issue. David Jolly introduced legislation that requires Congress to work a 40-hour work week, and there was huge uproar about it. I don't understand how we can require the American public to sometimes work 2-3 jobs to make ends meet. Sometimes they don't even, and our own leadership doesn't feel the need to be there.
Okay, but let me take this forward if I can. Let's just say that it's Marco Rubio versus Hillary Clinton in the debates, and Hillary Clinton decides that she's going to stand on this and make a big deal about it. Honestly, do you really think that it would be worth it at that point, and would it really change anybody's mind?
I think it's going to be a throwaway point. I think it will be mentioned. We know that politics now has gotten so partisan and so snipey that I'm sure we'll hear something about it, but I don't think it's something that's going to really take him down, as it were. I think there are much more meaty issues to go after Marco Rubio about.
I like that. We're going to use snipey a few dozen times, I think, between now and November of next year. It's going to fit perfectly. Ian, let's get back to you here. There are people right now who are screaming at John Boehner and said that he basically backed up on the Pledge to America, this new budget deal, and it's even been talked about in some of the different publications this morning, that it is a disaster for Republicans, and Paul Ryan is dead on to call him out on this. Your take?
I'm not sure it's a full-on catastrophe, but it's a bad deal. It reinforces the perception of Washington as a place that has no fiscal discipline by going back on the only thing that actually has enforced some fiscal discipline, which is sequestration. And while Paul Ryan was right to call out the process on it, he said that he's going to get behind the deal. So for Republicans who are skeptical of the type of leadership he's going to offer, this gives them a little more fodder.
Would you then have to say that the very conservative Republicans are going to be watching Paul Ryan like a hawk right now, and he has got to watch his step because they're going to use this against him if it fails again?
Yeah, I think absolutely. They're already looking at him with caution bordering on sort of quiet hostility. So they're looking for excuses. I'm not sure this is the best way for him to get in. It doesn't do what Boehner thought it would do, which is clear the barn. It doesn't do that at all.
Doesn't do that at all. All right, let's get back to the other side. Jessica, here we come from the left side. On Stephen Colbert's show last night, Hillary Clinton said, "I'll let big banks fail." Oh, you can just hear it now. I'm going to let big banks fail. Come on, Jessica. Let's be honest here. Wait a minute. She gets some of her money from the big banks and the big guys just like everybody else. She knows she can't let the banks fail.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Hillary Clinton have to tack to the left to compensate for Bernie Sanders, who has a platform that really rests on just a couple of issues. I mean, we know that he really has no foreign policy agenda. He wants to talk about income inequality. He wants to talk about the banks. He wants to talk about climate change. And she's got to face that. She also needs Elizabeth Warren to back her. And what's most important to Elizabeth Warren? That the big banks can fail. So, yeah, we're seeing Hillary, the campaigner. I'm glad to see her. She's doing incredibly well in the polls, I think, because she's doing things like this. So I don't expect to see the banks fail. And I do expect to see Hillary Clinton as the
But you do think she went a little over the end here, didn't she? Come on. She knows darn well that she's not going to let the big banks fail no matter who's in the chair, right?
I'm not sure. I can't speak to that. I'm not in Hillary Clinton's mind or on her policy team, but I would say that it's smart politics. It plays well. I mean, she's doing great. You can't keep her down this week or last week, and we'll see what happens next week.
Ian, 15 seconds. Do you think it was smart for her to come out and say that, or just another political move?
No, I think Jessica's exactly right, but the calamity that would befall the economy if the big banks were to fail is such that she wouldn't let it happen.
I have a feeling, too, that just you, me, everybody watching here, and Mrs. Clinton, they would also feel a little something if the big banks failed. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think anybody will let it happen. Ian Tuttle, Jessica Tarlov, always a pleasure to have you both on the show. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's also remind you now to make sure that you join us this evening. This is the third GOP debate, but there's a chance to make sure that you get the right side of what happened. Sarah Palin is going to be here. John Zogby will be here. Steve Malzberg will host. Michael Reagan, Craig Shirley, Dick Morris, the whole crew join us 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Pacific, right here on Newsmax. Stay with us. The fastest 60 minutes of news, The Hard Line, continues.